Pack up your tent and ride. Good grub cooking on a fire tonight. Pack up your tent and ride.
Hi, I'm Fraser Douglas, and I was an avid tent camper for over 55 years. And during most of that time, I also enjoyed cooking great tasting meals in our vintage cast iron cookware. Over those years, I learned a lot about using cast iron, and so I thought I would share some of my knowledge and some of my opinions with you. In this video, I'll be talking about seasoning vintage cast iron cookware. Although many videos about pre-seasoning cast iron have already been posted on YouTube, many of these videos present some misinformation and leave out some important details about seasoning cast iron. And I wanted to present a more comprehensive picture of the seasoning process. And in a future video, I hope to talk about cooking with vintage cast iron cookware. I hope you find something of interest in this video. First of all, I think it's necessary to distinguish between the term seasoning and the term pre-seasoning. Pre-seasoning refers to a procedure recommended by many YouTube creators to prepare a new piece of cast iron to cook in it for the first time. Generally speaking, it means baking 2 or 3 or 4 layers of oil onto the side of a pan before cooking anything in it. Whereas the term seasoning refers to the ongoing process of adding hard coats of oil to the sides of cast iron pans every time you use oil to cook something in the pan. Now let me get a little more specific about the meaning of the term seasoning. Every time oil is heated to a critical temperature or smoke point, some of it touching the sides of the pan is polymerized or converted into a hard coating that adheres to the side of the pan. And every time you cook something in oil in it, another coating is added to the side of the pan. As more coatings are added, the pan becomes more rust resistant and easier to clean. To illustrate this process, let me show you some photos of a carbon steel skillet that we bought so many years ago for our camp kitchen. I didn't know anything about pre-seasoning, so I just started cooking in it. I know I cooked a lot of bacon in it, and I cooked a lot of fish and several other things. As I used it, it got darker and darker. This is a fairly early photo showing a splotchy seasoning layer. And this is a later photo showing lots of seasoning layers. Since the new carbon steel pan was silver in color, it's very easy to see the progressive layers of seasoning. But since a cast iron pan is dark when it's new, it's very hard to see the progressive layers of seasoning being added. So now we should ask, is it necessary to pre-season a piece of cast iron before you first cook in it? And I believe the answer to that question is no. Not if you clean it well before using it and use plenty of oil when cooking in it. In fact, some cast iron enthusiasts have claimed that the best way to pre-season a pan is to fry bacon and potatoes in it. I would say fry anything in it with plenty of oil. So what should we say about pre-seasoning? And I would say do it if it makes you feel comfortable, but I don't think it's necessary. Now let me talk about pre-cleaning. When you buy any cast iron cookware, and especially used cast iron cookware, the first step is to thoroughly clean your piece before using it. You want to remove rust, baked-on food, and previous seasoning layers that may have built up on the pan. To remove rust, first try to scrub it with some coarse ground salt and a damp rag. If that doesn't work, then put it in a vinegar bath for about 12 hours and then scrub it with a scouring pad or a wire brush. To remove baked-on food and previous seasoning layers, first rinse the pan, then put it into an oven upside down and bake it at around 425 degrees for 2 hours. I should warn you that this will make your house smell bad, so do it at a time when you can open your windows and doors and perhaps leave the house after finishing this process. After the pan completely cools, wipe on a thin coat of oil with a rag, both inside and out. Then heat the pan on a stove eye until it smokes, and then wipe off the excess oil and allow the pan to cool. To get the best performance from your cast iron pan, the most important thing to do is to oil it often. Oil it before you use it and after you use it every time. This frequent application of oil will gradually build up good layers of seasoning on the pan. So what is the best oil for seasoning your cast iron pan? It seems that each YouTube creator has a different opinion about this. Some recommend flaxseed oil, some recommend grapeseed oil, and others recommend special products that are used to oil these pans. But I've never seen any evidence that one is better than another. So we just use Crisco, bacon grease, butter, corn oil, or olive oil, depending on what we're cooking and the taste that we want to enhance. The amount of oil that you put in the pan before you cook depends on what you're cooking. If you're sautéing vegetables, cooking bacon, or frying an egg, I would use 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil. But when I cook pancakes, I only put a very light coat of Crisco on the bottom of the pan before starting. The next question is, how do you clean a pan and re-oil it after cooking in it? Well, first of all, let me say we do not use any soap because we don't think it's necessary for cleaning, because it could leave a bad taste in the pan, and because we are afraid that it may degrade some of our seasoning layers. After cooking in a pan, we'll clean it by first removing as much food and grease as possible and then boiling a cup of water in it to loosen any remaining stuck-on food. We can usually remove most stuck-on food with a hard bristle brush, but if that doesn't work, we'll use a paint scraper to gently loosen the food. Then we'll rinse the pan, then dry it by heating it on a stove eye, then apply a light coat of oil to all surfaces, then heat it more until it smokes, then wipe off excess oil, and finally allow it to cool. So if a pan has been pre-seasoned, does that mean that it's non-stick? And my answer to that question is no. However, any cast iron pan will be easy to clean if you oil it correctly before cooking in it and you cook at a low temperature. Just boil a little bit of water in the pan and then scrub it with a scrub brush. But if you do not pre-oil the pan and you cook food at a very high temperature, it will be difficult to clean, even if it was pre-seasoned. The last question is, if a piece of cast iron cookware has a very glossy black finish, does that mean that it is well seasoned? And the answer to that question is no. Although well-seasoned pans typically have a glossy black appearance, I have bought pans from dealers that had a beautiful black glossy finish. But the first time I cooked in it, the pre-seasoning layers flaked off and we had black flakes in our food. It seems that when you try to apply many layers of seasoning in a short day or two, they just do not adhere very well to the pan and will flake off when you cook in it. So, what conclusions should we draw from this information? I suggest that cast iron enthusiasts and YouTube creators should spend less time talking about pre-seasoning and spend more time explaining that seasoning is a natural process that occurs if you properly oil your skillet or cast iron oven before and after each use, cook at low temperatures, and clean your piece with boiling water and a brush after every use. For more information about cast iron cookware, please visit my website, moderntentcamping.com. And while you're there, visit my Amazon store page where you'll find some links to some great camping products. Well, I hope you learned something useful from this video, and I hope you'll watch my next video in this series, Cooking with Vintage Cast Iron Cookware. Thanks for watching.